Ontario's NDP Leader Andrea Horwath. Always a pleasure to have you on the program, Ms. Horwath. Ontario reopening certain regions, retail stores. They say, the Premier said the curve is bending. So this is great. You don't think this should happen right now. Why not?
Well, I mean, what we don't want to do is to make the same mistakes over and over again. And, you know, I know that people are desperate to, you know, to get back out there and you know, have a half decent chance at a normal life. But let's face it, I mean, the government really hasn't changed anything from the other lockdowns. I mean, we still don't have paid sick days, even though we know that that's one of the places where the virus is spreading is in workplaces. We don't have a plan for testing, widespread testing in workplaces or in schools for that matter. And we don't have any extra measures really that have been brought to the schools. We don't have, you know, a classroom size cap of 15 kids. And so people deserve hope that this is going to be the last lockdown. And I think the only way we get that hope is if we have a government that actually has plans in place to deal with the spread. And I fear that we're just going to, you know, make the same mistakes again that we've made in the past.
Yeah, look, some are saying it's too soon and we're going to go on the COVID yo-yo. You open it up and then it comes back. But let me focus first on paid sick leave, something you've spoken a lot about. Premier Ford has been asked about this, and he argues, look, the federal government has already come forward with the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, up to $500 a week, and that's the paid sick leave people need in this pandemic. In your view, is that enough?
No, in my view, it's absolutely not enough, but it's also not enough in the view of many folks that are talking about this. Everybody from some small businesses right up to, you know, the experts that are advising the government. And the reason is because it's a program that you can apply for. You have to qualify for. Then if you get approved, you'll have to wait for the money to show up, and the amount of money isn't anywhere even near where it would help people to pay the bills at the end of the month. I mean, paid sick days are paid sick days. That means when you get your paycheck, it's not going to be docked because you decided to stay home because you had symptoms instead of going to work. Right. That's what the whole point in principle is, so that people don't have to worry about having a light paycheck at the end of a pay cycle because they did the right thing and stayed home.
Yeah, some businesses are saying, you know, we'll end up paying for that, and they're wary about it. But the other issue you spoke about is more infection control at long-term care homes and more COVID testing, rapid tests at schools. Look, we all know those are critical, but how long would that take to get going? In other words, how long would that potentially delay the reopening? And a small business has great ideas. That would take months, and I'll be out of business by the time that happens.
Well, I mean, in terms of the idea that somehow it's going to take a long time to put testing in schools, I don't think that's the case. And it should have been in place in the fall when kids went back to school. This government's had since the summer to come up with all of these plans. And, you know, the Minister of Education keeps talking a good game about these 50,000, you know, tests that are going to be available for schools, but there's no plan to actually, you know, do widespread testing in schools. And so there is no plan. And then when it comes to workplaces, you know, especially in some of those big workplaces, I mean, we've seen, you know, food processing, for example, and warehousing, and some of those, you know, big workplaces where Canada Post, where they're just, the spread, once it happens, it can go like wildfire. And if you had some of the testing in those kinds of workplaces, you might avoid, you know, the spread of the COVID. And that's exactly what this is all about. It's about trying to stop the spread so that we don't end up in another lockdown. And the government protected itself. I don't know if you noticed, Ford protected itself and said, well, we're going to have to put the brakes on. We have this emergency brake we're going to utilize. The point of the matter is, it opened things up safely, and you won't need an emergency brake.
Well,
you know, invest in the things you need to invest in, spend the money, and that's Ford's problem. He doesn't like to spend money.
Because he's not done the paid sick leave. We don't have a lot of testing at the schools, as we all know, but now we've got the new variant, the South African, the Brazilian, and the UK variant. A lot of doctors are concerned that it might take hold, and are you concerned that this new plan might actually allow those new variants to slip in? And then I know there's a mechanism, oh, if it comes in, we'll shut it down. Is that enough to deal with the new variant?
Well, I mean, this is why it worries me that we're in the same situation as we have been in the coming out of past lockdowns, is that the government hasn't made very many changes whatsoever. And so with these new variants, how can we then expect something different to occur. The new variants are much more vigorous, right? They spread more quickly, and yet nothing that we're doing indicates that the government's prepared to ensure the opening is safe. And that includes making sure businesses, small businesses, are supported as well, and people are supported if the brakes have to be put on again. I mean, really, you can't fight this virus on the cheap, and that's what Doug Ford's been trying to do. And what we need is the investment. We need the investment in the testing and a plan for it, right?
Well, it's not been cheap, but I know what you mean. There's a lot more that may have to be done here. Just before I let you go, Jagmeet Singh, the federal NDP leader, wants to close all for-profit long-term care facilities and privatize long-term care. It is provincial jurisdiction. Is that the answer, or should those facilities just be regulated and inspected more regularly and more vigorously?
Well, you know, there's been suggestions over the last decade and a half that all we need is to, you know, make it a more, tight regime in terms of regulation, but that hasn't happened. And I actually put a platform plank out a couple of months ago that speaks to a number of things around seniors care, including more home care, but certainly in long-term care, getting the profits out and making long-term care about quality of people's lives, not bottom lines of shareholders.
All right, you'd support that. All right, interesting. Here we go in well, we hope it's not the COVID yo-yo again. Andrea Horwath, great to have you on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you, Evan.